I'd like to open the meeting for the Rockingham County Board of Elections, which is located at the Rockingham County Governmental Center, 371 North Carolina 65, Reedsville, North Carolina. Today is December the 21st. I'd like to welcome those of you who are with us, and I'd also like to welcome those who are visiting us via Zoom. Would you please stand with us as we do the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by our invocation, Pastor Dennis Clements, First Baptist Church of Draper, will ask member Cotton to start our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. I want to, first of all, commend you in asking for prayer at the beginning of your session. That says a lot to me about you. And I also want to thank you for your service to our community. This is really the bedrock of our republic. It really is. And so what you are doing is important. It really is important. And I want you to know I appreciate that. I'm a judge at one of the precincts, so I'm a little wheel, a little cog in the process, but I'm so thankful for what you're doing. Let's pray together. Father, we're thankful for our country. We're thankful for this republic, for the freedom that we have, and we can exercise the right to vote and express our views and opinions through that, and what a privilege that is. I'm thankful for these men and women who have given themselves to really make sure that stays in place and to make sure that comes off correctly. This is important. This is really where democracy is won or lost, and I'm thankful for what they do. They've asked for prayer. And Lord, I pray that you direct their thoughts, and you have told us in the book of James that if we lack wisdom to ask, you'd give it. And so that's what we're here to do this morning. I pray that all their decisions and deliberations will be directed by you, and you give the wisdom that's needed. Thank you for our country, our state, our county, the freedoms that are ours. I pray for each one of these men and women that you would bless them and their families. Thank you for this special season that we are all enjoying when we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, who came to die for sins of mankind that we might have life everlasting. So bless this meeting, and Lord, I pray that much will be done that needs to be done, and give them the direction they need in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. You may take your seats. Thank you, Pastor Dennis, and thank you for the service that you have given for the county. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose signify by saying nay. The motion carries unanimously. Number 5, approval of the board minutes for November 16th, 2021, regular meeting minutes, and B, December 7th, 2021, special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 16th, 2021, and December 7th, 2021?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose signify by saying nay. The motion carries unanimously. At this time, we will entertain public comments. Paula, would you read our statement?
The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to elections business or items on the Board of Elections agenda. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the Board of Elections and not to staff, the audience, or media. The chair shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium and shall be allotted 3 minutes.
Thank you. So we're now open for public comments. The first person signed on our sheet is Bonnie Ferguson.
I'm Bonnie Ferguson. I live at 183 LeGrand Drive, Eden. I come before the citizens of Rockingham County to advise them the Rockingham County Board of Elections has violated the open meeting laws of North Carolina by voting on personnel appointments and other matters while in closed session. I made a Freedom of Information request for the open meeting minutes the day the board voted to hire the senior deputy director. I was sent by the director the September 21, 2021 minutes that have the discussion of the senior deputy director's position in closed session. I attended the September meeting, and when the board came out of closed session, there was no further business and adjourned. The statute explicitly requires some personnel actions be taken in open session. The personnel exception expressly requires that, and I quote, "Final action, making an appointment or discharge must come in open session. I challenge you as a board to abide by all rules and general statutes. You are not above the law." It is vital for the public to have trust in their elections and be able to see what decisions you make concerning those elections. This board must be transparent. Just having served on this board, I feel it's a great service to have Roy Sawyers streaming, not Zooming, the Board of Elections meeting each month. I see you'll be discussing his contract later in your agenda. No disrespect to the chair, however, the last 2 Zoom meetings that I have been able to join, I could only see the chair. With Roy's streaming service, you are able to see everything that occurs in the meeting. You as a board owe the citizens of this county better service than a Zoom meeting. There is limited space at the Board of Elections for the public to view proceedings, and Roy's service provides transparency. The Zoom sessions do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. Next person who has signed up is Kelly Carter.
Hello, my name's Kelly Carter. My address is 1211 Ashley Loop Road, Reedsville, North Carolina. I wanted to discuss the fact that I came to file for candidacy for running for Clerk of Superior Court. In order to do that, I was changing my party affiliation in July, which was the week before I went on vacation, to Republican. When I went to file on December the 6th, my paperwork apparently had been lost. I was told then that I was unaffiliated. I walked out at 11:30 that morning because I could not file. I went back at 1:30, spent the afternoon with the Board of Elections employees. They went through all the forms from March to September. They said they could not find my form. I was not given anything the day that I went in and filled it out. I filled it out right in front of them. Told me I had other options at that point. So I ended up filing my petition to run as unaffiliated. I was told that I only had to have 1.5% of the registered voters in Rockingham County signatures. I questioned that numerous times, was told by Ms. Seamster and Ms. Clark that that was correct. I even questioned the fact that I knew that the clerk that we have now had opposition that ran unaffiliated, and he had to get 2,400 plus signatures. She assured me it was 910. I left there and did some research on that, found out again that that was wrong. She implied that I never turned my paper in when I know that I did. The signature information she gave me was wrong. In fact, on November the 8th, when I first contacted her, she told me that the filing fee was $900 and some, and I told her then it was $1,076. She did call me back on the 9th and tell me that she had found out that that information was wrong. She appreciated me calling and telling her that that information was wrong, and she had updated everything on your webpage to accommodate that. She made me feel as if I was being held back rather than trying to be promoted. I did file. I'm having to get these signatures. I felt like I did the right thing to try to change, to avoid having to do that. I know that I'm not trying to make a mockery out of it. I just want things to be corrected and the information given being right, because I want it to not happen to someone else that comes into this office wanting to file for candidacy. I have already turned in 3 sheets, and she told me that 5 of them or 7 of them did not count. 2 were not registered to vote, which I understand. 5, she said, had not voted in the past 2 general elections, and the only thing
1 minute. You have 1 minute.
The only thing that I was told at the point that I had to file unaffiliated was that they had to be registered voters. I cannot find anything in the statute that states that they have to vote within the last 2 general elections in order to qualify as a signature on my petition. So I would like some verification on that. I have contacted the state office in Raleigh. I talked to Tiffany Holden, who has verified stuff that I have found out on my own. And I just want things corrected. And I want to know from now on when I speak to the Board of Elections that I'm giving the right information. I know what the mission statement states online, and I just want to make sure that that is followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. At this time, we will close the public comments part of our meeting, and we will move on to number 7, MOU between the Board of Elections of Rockingham County and the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners. Paula?
In your packet is a copy of the Memorandum of Understanding that is being proposed between the Board of Elections of Rockingham County and the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners. When I first came on this board, this was one of the things that was discussed, was that an MOU be developed so that the policies of the Rockingham County government could also be used by the Rockingham County Board of Elections. I've requested several MOUs from different counties and went through and actually drafted an MOU. It was also given to our attorney, Brian Farrell, who has also made suggestions and recommendations in the MOU, and it is in your packet, and I hope you have had the opportunity to review that. If this is something we want to move forward with, you would need to vote on that, but then it would be presented to the Board of Commissioners for their final approval.
Board members, do you have any discussion, any questions for our director?
Madam Chair, is there a time frame for us doing this, or is that on our schedule?
Okay, direct your question to Paul.
There's no time frame. I mean, we've been working on this for several months, but I know we want to make sure it is the way we want it before we actually present it to the Board of Commissioners. So if you'd like to review it a little bit longer, and then we can bring it back to the next meeting, we can do that.
Have I missed this before, or is this the first time we're
This
seeing
is the first time.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you would say. Because I hadn't read through this and hadn't had a chance to study it.
Any more discussion, any other questions? I would like to call your attention to Section 2 and Section 3. And hopefully we will have some discussion on that the next time that we look at the MOU that is being presented. And then in Section 5, I have a couple of questions about it, especially the part that says provisions of Chapter 163 is not specific enough, I would say, but we will have that discussion. So we will just let this lie on the table, and then we will bring it back, ready to move forward with it. And our next step would be, after we bring it back and we have our discussion and we approve it, our next step is to send it to the commissioners. Is that
After this board approves it.
right? After we approve it. Okay? All right, let's move to Rockingham County Board of Elections Public Records Request Policy. Paula?
Okay, I did the same thing with this one. I sent it out to several of the counties, received several of their public records requests. I have been told that the county had a public records request. I actually asked the county manager and the assistant county manager for a copy of that, and they said it was a verbal understanding that all public records requests go through legal. So, again, this was drafted. It has been given to the attorney, Brian Farrell. He has made revisions based on the information of the requirements for public records through the School of Government, through the State Board of Elections, as well as other counties. And just, it's now up to this board whether you want to approve this public record policy for the Rockingham County Board of Elections.
Any discussion or questions, board members?
Again, is this the first time you're seeing this?
First time.
I'd really like to have an opportunity, Madam Chair, to review this.
Now, I'm thinking, did you not send this out to us earlier than with the packet?
Yes.
Before we got to this point? Even the MOU, I thought, was sent out to us for review, or just to let us know that you had it and intended to bring it to the next meeting. But I understand, Member Schofield, if you need more time to review it, that is certainly something that we would do.
We can bring this up at the next meeting for further debate and discussion.
Okay. That'd be good. Anyone else have any discussion? So this will be brought back to our next meeting for review and discussion. Number 9, discussion on voting precinct mergers.
A board member had recommended that the board look into the possibility of merging some of the precincts to save money. I've pulled the statistics of the past 7 years of elections to see where there may be a possibility of merging precincts. At your desk, there is an additional packet with that information. I've also contacted the State Board of Elections to find out how this process would actually take place, and that was included in your agenda that was sent out. And I've also talked with Neil Bedour, and he has stated if we could actually get this process presented to the State Board of Elections no later than January the 14th, that the mergers could take place prior to the primary election in May. I do not think that would be possible. There is a lot of work that is involved. If you'll look at the statistics, there are some precincts that do have lower voter turnout than what some of the others would. But when you're looking at the adjacent precincts, it would increase tremendously. I've got those totals on the sheets, and like Draper, for example, is one of the precincts that is a lower turnout, but if you were to combine it with Eden Central, that would be a great amount of people. For example, at this last 2020 election, find it here. If you combine Draper and Eden Central, Draper had 1,545 voters. Eden Central had 3,165. So it would put it at 4,710 voters. The greatest voters turnout was actually at Moss Street, and it was 5,800 voters. So it would just depend on where you were actually looking to combine. I know that one of the ones that was mentioned was Leaksville. And I know that Eden has 4 voting precincts. And I know that a lot of the cost for municipal elections goes on the weight of Eden. So it's just, there would have to be a little bit more work done in this precinct merger to divide some of the other precincts. It's not just combining 2 and making 1. That would be nice if we were able to do that, but I don't think that would be a possibility. There is a possibility with Eden, with the 4 precincts, maybe making it 3, but all 4 of the precincts would have to be put together and divided so that it would be equal voter turnout for those 3 instead of just combining 2. Another area that was looked at was Hogan's and Huntsville. It's the possibility of combining those 2, but it would, if those 2 were added, it would also be over 5,000 voters. And I'm just looking at the 2020 general election turnout. So it would be more discussion needed on this, and like I had told Neil Baddour, I did not think it would be possible if the board wanted to move forward with the merger, it being ready for the primary election.
Hold on, question. We can't change in the middle of the year, is that correct? We can't, any changes we would make would have to be before the primary, because you can't do it just for the election, for the general election.
It can be done, it's not recommended. I mean, that's why he was saying if we could get it to them by January the 14th, it could happen before the primary. But he said if it wouldn't, then it would pertain to the general election.
I can see where that would lead to a lot of confusion.
It would.
I'd go one place to vote in the primary, and I'd go another place to vote in the general election.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion from any other members? So, Paula, what do you suggest we do? I know you said you didn't think we would have the proper time to get this done by the 15th, but I also want to ask you, what was the response when you mentioned that you didn't think we'd have time to do all that needed to be done? What was the response?
To the state board?
Yes.
They said it would entirely be up to this board. We would have to do a resolution. I mean, if you'll look in your agenda packet, there are things we would actually have to do. We would have to look at renaming the voting precincts that were merged. Let me find it here. We would have to make sure that the census maps were done as well to make sure that we do get the appropriate division of the voters. Let me get to the right page here. We would actually need to look at our shape files to make sure they are correct. We would have to change all of the boundaries that are in our system. We would have to notify all the voters. I mean, so it's not just a simple process. I think work sessions would probably have to be done to make sure that we're making this fair and equal in all of the voting precincts. if we were to merge a couple of the precincts.
Board members, what is your pleasure?
I think this is something that we need to review more thoroughly and add it to the agenda for next month's meeting. It's not a simple thing, and I don't think we can get it done by January 14th. Is that correct?
Did you put this on the agenda expecting a definitive answer for today?
It was requested that we put this on the agenda, so I wanted to give you a little bit of information on what was involved in that. And we actually have it in writing from the state board, what the steps are we would be required to do and have presented to the state board for their final approval.
Have you started working on a plan for this?
I have looked at the different statistics as far as how many voters actually turned out in each of the districts, and the simplest way to merge, but there is no simple way to merge. I mean, some of the smaller precincts you might consider combining are not close. So your small precincts, if you combined with the closest precinct, like I said, for the Draper and the Eden Central is one of our largest voting precincts. So combining Draper would make it even larger. So that's why I was saying if you were going to look at Eden as a whole, with the 4 different precincts, we would probably have to redraw that whole area to make it 3 precincts.
What I'm hearing you say is that because of the logistical requirements, we cannot report anything on this by the 15th of January.
That is correct.
So the 14th of January is not a hard and firm date.
No, that was just the latest that they would be able to get it on their agenda, get it approved, get it back, and it would be available for us to use at the primary election.
I think it's a great thought, wherever we can offer the appropriate voting opportunities and save money as a winner. But it looks like to me the time frame and the fact that at least the confusion, if not an absolute requirement, that we have it for the primary and the general election, that's something we need to work on for next year.
Should we table this discussion until some point in the future?
Yes, I would say that we need to move forward with we have 11 steps that we need to take here. And some of them look like they will consume a lot of time. So I would think that we need to move forward with it because just as Member Schofield said, it would save money. It would also be good for our voters. So I think we need to move forward with getting it ready, but we might not get to it until next year. Any further discussion?
You need a motion? Do we need a motion to table this until further time?
I think so.
Okay, that'll be
I
fine.
so move that we table this until a later meeting in this year.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved and properly second that we table the discussion on the voting precinct mergers until a later meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Any other discussion? Okay, you have moved to table this until another meeting. 10, contract on the videoing of board meetings. Paula?
Okay, never seen the contract for Roy Sawyer's doing businesses or E&O. We've had some things to come up that we were unaware of. So the main reason today is so you would see the contract and see what was included. It has been suggested that the Board of Elections maybe do a separate contract, different from the other agencies that are involved because of all of the different meetings that we have. We do have a very small budget for this line item, which is $3,300. The charge per meeting is $275, and we have 12 meetings a year that are regular meetings. So the reason that we have this on, of course, we'll be discussing our budget next month or the following month, depending on when we get that information. Do we want to continue with just having RCE&O during our regular meetings? Or do we need to include them in the special meetings that we have, which are call meetings for the budget, the absentee board meetings, or do we want to continue with Zoom or some other avenue? We're also looking at Microsoft Teams. But we have to understand that each meeting, it would be $275. So this is something I wanted to present to the board. You have the contract to look at it. Is something that we need to think about for the budget on how to move forward. Do we need to ask for more money? Do we need to leave it at where it is? I mean, it's just something for you to be thinking about prior to the budget. And I'm expecting that we'll receive that budget information within the next couple of weeks. So it's something for us to look at, how we want to move forward. If we want it just for the regular meetings or for all the meetings.
What would be the option if we didn't do the videoing for all the meetings? What would be the option for those that would not be included except for the regular meetings? How would they be publicized?
Well, we've done some through Zoom. We have not had a lot of success with that. What the state board is using in several other Board of Elections is they're using Microsoft Teams. And we're actually looking into that now to see if that may be a better option if we're doing those at the Board of Elections office.
Where the individuals, participants were on a screen, on a TV somewhere.
Yes, sir. But like I said, we just wanted to give you this so that you have the contract. It's just a 2-page contract. What's at the beginning of it is the county's standard contract. So, but it's something we need to be thinking about with the budget. Yes, ma'am.
To look back at the Zoom meetings, aren't we getting the okay from the state every time we do a Zoom meeting? Or what is their policy regarding that?
They really do not have a policy. A lot of the Board of Elections meetings are not televised. They're not recorded or videoed.
Is that true in other counties as well?
Yes.
And so therefore the state is okay with that?
They're okay with that. But it's entirely up to this board. This board chose to do theirs televised, and the citizens like the transparency. So, but we're just wanting to know if you want to continue with the 12 meetings that we have, one a month, or if we want to increase that, because if it's going to be increased, we'll need to increase our budget. But that will entirely be up to this board.
So, board members, I would think that before we could commit ourselves to making it more than 12, we would need to ask for more in our budget before we can move forward with adding some additional meetings. So I would say that we would, when we get ready to look at our budget with discussion, we would probably ask you, Paula, which one of our call meetings that we would have would be ones that would be advantageous for us to have Roy to come in and video. Now, we also need to think in terms of where the meeting would be. So we'd have two things that we need to look at, I would think. Where the meeting would take place and the additional meetings past the 12th, if you understand what I'm saying.
And I would think we also have got to know what the other cost factors are going to be.
Right.
Because we haven't looked at a budget. I haven't looked at a budget. I don't know what our other expenses are going to be this coming year. And, we may have to make some decisions on, what's the priorities.
Okay, Paula sent the budget out to us to sort of look at for the past 2 years.
Right.
And so we need to spend time looking at that budget because soon the commissioners will have their work session. And hopefully we can ask for more money so that we can live stream using Roy as our individual, but cost would be a factor. So,
Madam Chairman,
okay,
this is not an action item. This is information,
right.
right? So we need to do nothing with this.
Just to get you ready for when we're thinking about the budget so that you, like I said, no one on this board has seen the contract before. So now you have a copy of the contract, what's included in that contract, what the costs are. Now, I don't know if there will be an increase in the videotaping for the next year. That is something we would have to find out from Mr. Sawyers, if there will be an increase, if it will still be the $275, or if that amount will be changing. So, and that's something else that I can find out.
And if I understand you correctly, this is based on the contract that we have with the county, and we just pay for the services for the time we use it.
Correct.
And will that be the same for the coming year?
I don't know that. I'll have to find that out.
So this was just an informational piece, board members, for us to look at and be thinking about when it's time for us to look at our budget. As we move forward, just hang on, got all my papers. Okay, 11. Director's update, starting with A, 2021 municipal cost analysis.
Okay, in your packets is a breakdown of the municipal elections and the cost per ballots. The invoices to the municipalities went out before Thanksgiving, and all of the municipalities have paid their invoices. If you will look at the cost analysis, it breaks it down for postage, advertising, the ballot coding and layout, ballot printing, materials printed, one stop, the service maintenance of the equipment. It breaks it out as far as early votes, the absentee ballots received, what the costs were for election day, and then at the very bottom, we have the total cost, which we had 3,620 ballots cast, and it was $11.78 per ballot. And if you take out the filing fees, it was $11.70 per ballot. But are there any questions on this breakdown? Is this what you're looking for when you're looking for your cost analysis? Okay.
B.
Are there any questions? Okay. So we'll move on to the 2022 primary election update. The primary election has been postponed until May 17th, 2022. The primary election candidate filing has been suspended until further notice. We will also need to approve another one-stop early voting plan because the one we did before was for the March election, so we'll have to do a new one for the May election once the one-stop early voting dates have been set. The redistricting lawsuit will be heard in the Wake County Superior Court on January the 3rd through the 5th. Closing arguments will be on January the 6th, and they're expecting a decision to be made on January the 11th. And from what we're being told by the director at the state board, it doesn't matter who will lose, there will be an appeal. So we will see that will determine when the candidate filing will be put back on, as well as the early voting, is once that decision has been made. Moving on to the 2022 Spring State Board of Elections Virtual Conference. The dates have now changed. It will now be March the 14th through the 15th. Registration will open on January the 19th. The group rate will be $250 for everyone to attend, as long as we're in the same spot. And if it is agreeable to this board, we would do it the same way we did in August. We'll have it at the Board of Elections. Instead of paying individually, which would cost more, we would be able to get the group rate and have it all there at the Board of Elections. And that is all that
The event.
It will be a 2-day event, yes, sir. The last time it was 3, but this one will be a 2-day event.
Any other discussion? Question? Continue the same way we did in August?
You need a motion.
Yes.
So move.
I second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we attend our Spring State Board of Elections virtual conference at the Board of Elections office Monday, March 14th, 2021, and Tuesday, March 15th, and we will be there as a group. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right, say nay. You have agreed for us to attend our virtual conference at the Board of Elections on the 14th and the 15th as a group. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Okay, let me get this. Attorney-client privilege, NCGS 143-318. Dot 11A3, case 120-CV-01100, Amy Simpson versus Rockingham County Board of Elections, et al., and to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential. NCGS 143-318.11A1. It has been moved and properly seconded that we go into closed session for the matter that I mentioned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. You have agreed to
Can
go
we have
into.
a 5-minute break before we go into
Can you let
closed
me
session?
finish? Can you let me finish here? We have agreed to go into closed session, and so member Schoolfield has asked for a 5-minute break. Granted. He's good? Okay, Board members, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we adjourn at 11:45. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposers have the same right. You have agreed to adjourn.